Hi, I'm Caden, here with my brother,
Cal,
and you're listening to Eating W's.
eat the W.
That's a W. Let's eat one. Let's eat one. That's a W.
So, on today's episode of Eating W's, we will be doing our final recap. It's all come down to this. The Super Bowl finally happened, in which the Rams picked up a big W, and all of the Rams players who probably deserved a ring, if we're being dead honest, finally got that ring, so it was nice to see. But before we get into the actual recap of the game, we'll have a few things to start. First of all, just wanted to give a quick kind of update on what this channel is going to be like over the off season. So throughout the entire off season, we'll be doing a weekly Wednesday episode of just a rundown of any smaller news or anything like that, or just topics that we want to talk about, or just anything. It'll be like a weekly rundown. And then we'll also be doing dedicated videos to bigger news releases, and then especially once the combine happens and free agency and the draft, we'll be doing bigger dedicated videos for things like that. And then secondly, before we get to the recap, we have the final score of our head-to-head pick'em game. I took the win. I picked the Rams. It all came down to the Super Bowl. I got it right. I won by a total score of 177 to 175, so just barely eked out a win by 2 points. All of those games, and it came down to a 2-point differential. That's crazy. We couldn't think of an overly great punishment, so what we're going to do is in our first weekly punishment, tonight's big loser, Joker style, but so in our first weekly rundown episode next week, Callan will have to wear a Dalvin Cook jersey, a Vikings jersey, throughout the whole episode. So just wanted to do something small and fun like that. If you have any suggestions or anything that we could do next season, put them in the comments. I mean, that'd be fun. If we could get anything, that'd be great. So now, finally, before we get into the recap of the game, I want to do a huge news dump rundown because, of course, taking the bye week last week, which... Speaking of that, thank God we didn't cover the Pro Bowl game. Oh yeah,
there was a Pro Bowl.
Because that Pro Bowl...
I think the AFC won.
I think AFC won, but I've seen more physical games in second grade flag football. It was just nothing worth covering. So I'm happy we just took the bye week right there. So first of all, the Jaguars hired Doug Peterson as their new head coach. The Raiders hired Pat Graham as their new defensive coordinator, as well as the Colts hiring Gus Bradley to fill their vacant defensive coordinator position. The 49ers hire Anthony Lynn as their assistant head coach. So now they have two head coaches that can't finish a game, so that's going to lead to a good amount of choking for the Niners. Can't wait to see that. The Dolphins hire Mike McDaniels as their new head coach, which was interesting. I'm really surprised by that one, but
Press conference was really interesting. Check that out if you can.
I did not get to see it, but I heard that it was quite a spectacle, to say the least.
It seems like he also just found out that he's half black.
Oh,
that's how,
yeah,
that's basically how he reacted to
quotes.
it. He just found out himself. That's seriously, that's how he reacted to it in the press conference.
Someone told him as he was going out, he's like, "You're gonna get this question, so be ready." And he was not. Okay, and then the final two head coaching hires happened on the same day a few days ago, ironically. Not counting the Vikings, of course, because they haven't made their announcement official.
I heard on Thursday.
On Thursday? Yeah. So the Vikings hiring Kevin O'Connell as our new head coach isn't official yet, but it's more than likely going to happen. As long as McVay doesn't retire and screw us over. I wouldn't even be surprised. But the final two head coaching hires that I was talking about was the Texans hiring Lovie Smith as their head coach and the Saints promoting their current defensive coordinator, Dennis Allen, to their head coach position. So two defensive-minded guys there going in as head coaches, which surprises me in today's league, being so offense-oriented, but we'll see how it works out for the Texans and the Saints.
Especially going against the trend of the young offensive wonder kings.
Very against it. Defensive guys and older guys. So
veterans.
See how it plays out for them. And then in pretty good news for you guys, the Packers hired Rich Bisaccia as their special teams coordinator. Which is a huge hire. I mean,
that one got an applause. If he can't fix our special teams, we just need to not do them. We just need to only have two facets of the game.
You need to play it.
I don't know what else to do.
You need to play it Zach Taylor style.
Yeah.
No punting.
No punting. Going for it.
No punting and only game-winning field goals.
Yeah, 12 men on the line to block. No returner, or 11, I mean.
Yeah. Well, I mean, last time you guys were faced with the game-winning field goal situation, you only had 10 men on the line, so 12 is better than 10.
That shouldn't happen. One thing about him that I've heard about Richie, is for his special teams, is that it's all about discipline with him. Discipline and operation and execution. And it's like, obviously that's what special teams should be about, but that's his specialty. And I think that obviously seeing how the Raiders players reacted to him not being brought back, I think that he'll get these guys to play for him. I think that the Packers should get a bunch of young guys for special teams, because I think he'll get them to run through a wall and hopefully just execute. That's all. If we had just executed basic fundamentals, we're probably in the Super Bowl, probably talking about how this is the greatest time of my life right now. I mean...
You guys are so good at the other two phases of the game that if you can even just get some half-decent special
if we could just
teams,
get middle-of-the-pack special teams.
Yeah,
I mean,
it's
no
a whole
pun
new
intended.
team right there. But and then moving on in the opposite, very, very sad news for Vikings fans. We let go of Andre Patterson, and the Giants signed him as their new defensive line coach, which made me really, really sad to see. I want us to promote him to our full-time defensive coordinator, and then we ended up doing the dead opposite. We ended up letting him go. But, sometimes with a new regime, new people at top, that happens, and good for the Giants, because they got a hell of a coach, and they got a pretty
They replaced a great one with an up-and-coming great one.
Yeah,
Patrick Graham was highly touted.
They got a pretty good defensive line already, so it's going to be interesting to see what Andre Patterson can go there and do. And then to fill in for Andre Patterson, more to fill our defensive coordinator position, we hired former Broncos defensive coordinator Ed Donatel as the Vikings' new defensive coordinator. I did a little bit of research on him. Seems like he was a defensive backs coach for a long time with the Bears and some other teams, as well as the Broncos.
I had heard that name before.
And then stepped up to be a defensive coordinator for the Broncos. And for all the young guys they had on their defense, I'm okay with that, because the Broncos had a pretty decent defense for what they had this year. And I'll be excited to see what he can do with our defense. And one thing I'm really interested to see is him and a couple of the other guys that we hired are very used to running 3-4 defenses. And the Vikings usually run a 4-2-5. So I don't know if we'll more run
Switching.
I don't know if we'll maybe run like a 3-3-5 or something like that. I wouldn't mind seeing that, but yeah. It'll be interesting.
Switching to the 3-4 though, maybe?
Then switch to the 3-4 could easily happen too. We could go 3-4-4.
Do you have a
I don't know. It'll be
you have a nose tackle?
Michael Pierce.
Oh yeah.
Or Dalvin Tomlinson could probably do it too. Sheldon Richardson could probably borderline do it. I think he's a little small
he's
for
more
nose,
of an
but
end.
yeah.
He's more of a D end to 3-4.
But yeah, it should be a time of change for the Vikings this offseason, so we'll see how that goes. And then now we will finally get into the meat and potatoes, the Super Bowl. As I mentioned earlier, the Rams pick up a win by a score of 23-20 on a last-minute touchdown, which led to a Rams defensive stop at about the 50-yard line of the Bengals for them to win the game. And man, I think the big one here, the elephant in the room, is poor Eli Apple. That guy got that phantom holding call and then got left one-on-one with Cooper Kupp on the goal line.
On the game-winning play.
I don't even know if that's on Eli Apple.
Hey, Eli Apple called out OBJ. He wasn't even trying to mess with Cooper Kupp.
Yeah.
He ended up getting stuck with Kupp because OBJ got hurt.
Yeah.
So, I don't know whose decision it was to be like, let's move him up.
I don't know why it was anyone's decision at all to put Cooper Kupp one-on-one. I mean, that should have just not even been a decision. It doesn't matter.
On the goal line, though,
you can give me Jalen Ramsey, Jaire Alexander, a lot of the top corners in the league one-on-one with Kupp on the goal line, and I'm taking Kupp still. So
Devontae wins a lot of those one-on-ones.
Exactly. The fact that they even thought Eli Apple was going to go out there, they must have just been playing run and said, let him score and we'll try to tie it up, because that's pretty much what they did. They just let him score.
Yeah, I mean there was more penalties in that last 2 minutes than there was the whole game, and they were all for the Rams. I don't know. I'm not trying to start anything here saying it, but is a little bit fishy, and it's quite unfortunate because the Bengals had a couple stops, but then there was penalties that kept just allowing a first down, even though they were moving it up just little bits, but it's resetting the downs.
I'm definitely not going to argue with Bengals fans and say, like, oh, the refs didn't decide that game, because in a way they did. But a lot of those Bengals fans are really happy to forget that obvious T. Higgins face mask no call that happened earlier in the game.
I thought you were going to go all the way back to
touchdown.
the beginning of the playoffs and the inadvertent whistle.
Oh, no, I'm talking about that T.
You're talking
Higgins
about the
face
T.
mask.
Higgins face mask
When
on Jalen.
I'm pretty sure Jalen Ramsey went straight to like a chiropractor after that game because T. Higgins yanked on that guy's face mask and turned his head. And there was no flags to be
call.
seen.
They were letting them play until the last 2 minutes, and then...
So, it was a two-way street. It really was. I'm going to totally agree that the reffing was not great, but I'm not going to say that they handed the Rams the game.
The reffing's never great anymore.
Oh, no.
When have you last time came out of a game and been like, you know what, that was officiated pretty well? I really can't recall of a time where I really thought, like, okay, that was actually well done.
Not in a close game like that.
No. It usually seems like that those calls tilt the scales. They don't decide the game. I'll never want to say that a penalty decides the game. I think just a couple of different plays just ran through my head.
I was going to say, there's definitely times.
but they definitely can tilt the scales and favor one team heavily.
Oh, big
like
time,
by
big time.
resetting the downs on those. There's been talks I've seen of them not getting the resetting of the downs, like just replaying the down, like moving it up 10 and replaying third down or something like that. Because the resetting of the downs is really almost the biggest factor in any defensive penalty. Whereas for an offensive penalty, it's not like you lose a down. In fact, most times it's 1st and 20 after a holding call. So I don't know. I think that maybe the penalties need to be adjusted a little bit to not favor the offense so much.
I never thought about that. That's true.
Yeah.
I could see them doing a little bit of tweaking like that. I'd be surprised if they actually did it. Just knowing the NFL, I don't know if they're going to change
it'd be
those
really
rules
hard
like
for
that.
them to just do that.
I could maybe see them making small tweaks like that.
Mm-hmm.
But now that we're past kind of the elephant in the room, questionable officiating, onto the actual game. I mean, it was as close as we expected. We expected a hell of a game.
It was a very good game.
It
well
was
played.
It was one
teams.
of the best Super Bowl matchups I could remember over the past few years. It was the first time that I looked at a Super Bowl matchup and was like, I can't pick. Usually you can kind of like lean one way or say this team's going because of this, but I looked at this one and I said, Rams could win because of blah, blah, blah. Bengals could win because of blah, blah, blah. Rams could lose because of blah, blah, blah.
Yeah.
Bengals could lose because of blah. There was just so many possible outcomes, and it, of course, ended up being close, and the Rams came out on top, though. OBJ caught the first touchdown and then promptly tore his ACL, so, I guess trade-offs there.
But he got his ring.
He got his ring. He got the
ring.
first touchdown. It's really sad to see an injury like that, especially so late, because that'll probably end up
that's going to cut into his season next year.
That's going to cut into next season, and I believe he's a free agent this year, so that really hurts too. So the team's probably going to end up getting a steal on him.
Yeah, because he'll come back halfway through the season.
But it was good to see him catch that touchdown. And don't love him, don't hate him, but it was cool to see it going from the Browns to the Rams.
He wanted it.
Super Bowl.
He can be a bitch sometimes and things like that, but he wanted it. I'm not going to deny that he didn't want it because of the emotion that came out. That showed right there that he wanted it.
Yeah,
and I'm glad he got it.
Yeah, it was good to see, and he got his ring. One of my favorite plays of the entire game was the Bengals going back to the 70s Walter Payton style and throwing a halfback pass touchdown, and like the classic halfback pass, like the pitch, Mixon tucked it and took one step and then got that up and threw a perfect ball to T. Higgins, which was one of T. Higgins' 2 touchdowns of that game. Mm-hmm. The only Bengals wide receiver to score at all.
They were shut down. They shut down Jamar Chase.
Pretty well unexpected.
He got some yards. He had some catches and yards. I think he had like 62 yards or something like that. But none of those big plays, none of those big explosive plays that he was known for. He didn't break 200 like he had been doing. I mean, he had a solid game, but when you're a number 1 receiver, you gotta have more than that.
In fact, the only big play that really happened on either side of the ball that I can remember was that questionable T. Higgins
Yeah,
75-yard
the
touchdown.
start of the third quarter, Bengals got the huge play.
It's so weird to say, but Matthew Stafford is a Super Bowl champion.
He is, and he
It's
earned it.
crazy to
He
say.
took his team down there and won it. He's the only one.
He did.
He's the only one who took his team down there this postseason, took his team down there and won it with a touchdown. Yes, other teams that drove him down, kicked the field goal, all that, yada, yada, yada. This is the guy who got the touchdown and the guy that won the Super Bowl. Is that any coincidence?
I think his stat line was 285 yards, 3 touchdowns, 2 picks. 2 very costly picks, but he was able to counteract it with those 3 touchdowns, including that game-winning touchdown, as Callan mentioned. So, everyone makes mistakes. He almost made big mistakes, but he did enough to counteract those mistakes and pick up his team a win.
Yep.
It was good to
On
see.
the final drive, he was perfect.
That poor guy, he spent all those years in Detroit and didn't even win a playoff game. It spends
and
one
year
year
out of Detroit. The Lions would be really good if they could get a quarterback like Stafford.
If they had, not even gonna lie, if they had the young team they had right now and still had Stafford, they're probably borderline a playoff team. I don't think they win a Super Bowl or any means, but they might make the playoffs if they have next year with young Amon-Ra and DeAndre Swift and
I know they're actually getting quite a good offense put together. Now they're missing that quarterback.
It's really funny to say, but we'll have to see how that all plays out. But I think that's about it. It was really good to see Aaron Donald get that ring. Jalen Ramsey got a ring. And Odell, Cooper Kupp. Cooper Kupp won Super Bowl MVP. Forgot to mention.
We talked about last time about the different matchups and what was going to be the key, and the key that everyone pointed out was that we thought that the Rams defensive line was really going to dominate that Bengals offensive line. And they didn't really for most of the game.
Well, ironically,
until that fourth quarter and that last drive.
They kind of did, but the usual suspect was not the one. Aaron Donald only had 1 sack.
That's true, yeah.
Given it was that super clutch sack at the end to end the Bengals' drive. But outside of that, Aaron Donald didn't really do much.
Pretty quiet for that game until that last drive, and then he just kicked it into another gear.
They ran Samaje Perine right at him on 3rd and 1. It was like they were just asking him to ruin him.
I don't know what that was about. I don't know if there was supposed to be a double team on Aaron Donald or what. That was an odd play call, I thought.
I don't know.
But I just felt like the key that everybody thought, and yes, I guess they did have 7 sacks, so they did kind of dominate, but not in the way everybody thought. Everybody thought it'd be Aaron Donald, and Robert Quinn. Oh man, I'm still doing it. Leonard Floyd, but. It wasn't. I don't think Floyd or Donald got a sack.
No, I think A'Shawn Robinson got 2.
A'Shawn Robinson did really good.
Yeah.
Their middle linebacker, Ernest Jones,
he got one
or two.
So, and like you mentioned, I really like the point you brought up that it was not 7 sacks is a lot of sacks. I got to give that
most
to
in
them.
Super Bowl history.
But it was not like a consistent domination. They were very quiet for 3 quarters, only picking up 1, 2, maybe 3 sacks, and then totally, like you mentioned, kicked into another gear in the 4th quarter and ended up getting 4 or 5 in that last quarter.
The sacks were sprinkled about. It's a baseball term when you sprinkle hits, or you give up hits, but they're sprinkled just throughout innings. So they end up not scoring any runs, but you've allowed 7 hits. They were getting sacks, but they were like a sack on 2nd down and then not another one for 2 drives.
Exactly.
Or a sack on 1st down and then they get another 1st down and then there'd be another sack. But it was never like a game sealing or a drive killing sack until the end. Until that last one.
Then it was literally drive killing.
Which, if you go back and look, if Burrow has about 2 more seconds, he has Jamar Chase wide open on a post.
I think it's Ramsey who's literally on his face.
Yeah,
and
but
Jamar
he just
Chase
didn't have enough time for
downfield.
that route to develop, and he never saw him.
We were talking during the Super Bowl, and I walked up to Callan and I said, if they have Penei Sewell, they probably win this game. And then I was like, I just realized that they're not in this game if they have Penei Sewell over Jamar Chase. So.
I think so. I think that Jamar Chase definitely helped them win some games. I don't know, they might be division champs, but he took over in those playoff games, And I mean, he had a dominant postseason. He, helped lead them. Has the most receiving yards, touchdowns for a rookie in his rookie season, beating all kinds of rookie records set by superstars. I mean, Hall of Famers. Jefferson. You got me saying Jefferson. I meant Randy Moss, Jerry Rice records. So, they were, you just didn't quite finish it in the Super Bowl.
One thing to keep an eye on this offseason is see if Joe Burrow is 100%, because he had a pretty nasty looking knee injury in like the second quarter, I want to say.
Yeah.
But then didn't even miss a drive. He came out the next drive and played pretty well. I mean, It didn't look like it affected him.
I said, these guys, they're going to have to break a bone or be knocked out.
But he was limping off the field, putting no weight on it. So it'll be interesting to see how that plays in the long run. But he looked good, luckily. I don't think it'll affect him too much in the long run.
I give him a couple Vicodin during halftime, and they just threw him back out there.
I think that might be what they did, because he didn't even miss a drive. He was right back there.
He was right back out there.
But hopefully he stays healthy and nothing happens, because that poor guy already had to deal with his rookie season.
He's going to end up like Andrew Luck. He's going to retire.
He's going to retire in like 2 years, yeah. Okay, well, that was our Super Bowl recap. Like we mentioned earlier in the show, just give another quick breakdown. From now on, we will be doing weekly rundown episodes every Wednesday, hopefully, and then some dedicated videos to either bigger news stories or big events that happen as the off-season goes on. But until those videos come back, thank you for watching, and don't forget
to eat the W.